Greetings, everyone. Welcome to your Astro-Weather Check for tomorrow night's Pisces Full Moon and partial Lunar Eclipse. So today I'm going to have a little fun with the Astro-Weather Check. I'm kind of feeling like getting more into the inner child and fantasy, I guess you could say, fantastical energies that are available to us this week with the energy of this full moon. There is a very serious undertone to it because we'll have the planet Saturn involved, but I really want to focus on the lighter side of everything, especially with everything that's going on in the world right now and the news that I woke up to this morning. I feel like we could all use a little bit of an energetic break. And I think tapping into the higher vibration energies and the inner child and childlike wonder qualities that are available to us right now with the full moon in particular are a really good place to focus. So we'll do the astro weather check. We'll look at the chart. There's so much going on with this full moon. Every planet has something to say yet again. So we'll look at all of that in detail. And I want to pull again from the Raise Your Vibration Oracle deck to close out for today. So I hit record. It's Monday, September 16th, around 8:30 a.m. here in Atlantic City. The moon will be full tomorrow night at 10:34 p.m. So Tuesday, September 17th, 10:34 p.m. here in Atlantic City. And then depending on where you are in the world, the time will obviously be different. And we'll cover that as well because this is also an eclipse, like I said. So I'll reteach the timeanddate.com website and how to find out. This will be visible in North America. So if you're up late tomorrow night, you can actually see it if it's a clear night. Partial lunar eclipses, it won't be, anything awe-inspiring, like the moon won't turn red or anything. A little piece will be kind of covered in a shadow, which is still cool to watch. So if you want to get out there and check it out, that'll be fun if you can see it. And when the moon reaches fullness, I'll show you when we look at the chart, but it'll actually be between Neptune and Saturn. So when the moon is full, if you look to the right of the moon, you'll actually see the planet Saturn. So that's pretty cool too. I actually checked that out last night. And it was nice. Saturn's pretty bright right now because it's opposite the sun. So it was cool. Like last night when I was watching it, it was to the left of the moon, obviously, because the moon wasn't full yet. But we'll take a look at that at the chart when we look at the chart, and it might be more clear when you could actually see it visually. So, Pisces. Pisces is the sign. It's usually super sensitive, usually extremely empathic, usually very emotional. With the moon there, if you have a Pisces moon natally, very subconsciously just connected to source and everything beyond the physical, usually. So Neptune, modern ruler of Pisces, Jupiter, traditional ruler of Pisces, we'll look at where both those planets are in the chart as well. But I want to kind of get into Neptune, Pisces. They kind of rule over things like fiction and cinema and our imagination and imaginal realms, imaginal cells, like the cells that kind of turn the caterpillar into the butterfly and the cocoon. Like it relates very much to all those processes and things that happen in the unseen realms. It also relates very much to escapism and addiction, diseases, viruses, immunity, things like that. So rather than focusing on those things with this full moon, I want to, like I said, stay in the lighter, higher vibration energies, like the Peter Pan energy, the childlike wonder, the inner child, the connecting just with children in general. Like this could be a really fun week if you have kids. Like art and all that kind of stuff are under the domain of Pisces and Neptune. If you have kids, just maybe spend some time extra this week, just back to school and things are kind of crazy. Just play with them a little bit more. Get outside, do something like get away from the screens. The addiction part plays into not just substances, but addiction to our screen times and our phones and just any way that we escape, but where it detracts from our expansion of our consciousness. I'd like everyone to kind of maybe intentionally focus a little bit more on forms of escape where we can expand our consciousness and just kind of reconnect with imagination and things that, we loved to do when we were kids. Like I've kind of been in that space a lot this weekend and this week already. Like your dreamscape, like just have fun. Try and, maybe do some lucid dreaming or active dreaming or set some intentions before you go to sleep and then see what happened, during the night when you wake up in the next morning. Just, what did your dreams tell you? What synchronicities have been happening? What's spirit communicating to you right now? So I kind of want to be like, pick up a coloring book. Like this is a very it's a super moon again, I believe. Saturn's heavily involved, like I said. So there's a very like sobering quality to the energy. All the planets are involved in kind of like the round table analogy or metaphor that I've been giving. It's more of a argumentative round table this time around. So I just feel like dropping into the beautiful spaces, like movies like What Dreams May Come, or if you got a Disney Plus subscription, dive back into the ones that you loved when you were a kid. I watched Luca for the first time over the weekend. That was so much fun. I've been reading fiction again, which I'm getting so much joy from because I don't usually read fiction. Usually when I pick up a book, it's to learn something. So it's usually nonfiction, something astrology, but I've been reading the Practical Magic series. So I just feel like really called to be in that space at the moment. So I invite all of you to do that as well, especially this week, especially with everything that's so intense that's going on. And the energies of this moon I'm sure you're already feeling it, are intense. So I want to get into the chart because that's kind of where I want to spend the most time with this astro weather check. But before we look at that, I'd like to introduce today's tagline for tomorrow's full moon, which is "Let's go fly a kite." So Mary Poppins is one of the things that has been calling to me a lot. I'll probably watch it later when I'm done working. There's a kite pattern in this full moon, and we'll look at that. But it's an aspect pattern that speaks to the very harmonious, one of the like the biggest harmonious flow energies. And we'll look at that when we look at the chart. But it reminded me of the movie Mary Poppins and just how she helps them reconnect to the kids and to their own inner child. And the movie's very Saturnian when it starts, but then turns very, Jupiterian and Neptunian by the end, and just really focusing on what matters most. And it's not going to a job at a bank, So even though we have all of those things in our lives and those responsibilities, we can still intentionally invite more of the fantasy and the wonder and the child energy. Like I watched another movie. I think that, I'm just revisiting a lot of movies because that was one of my big things when I was a kid and still is. I love movies. I watched If again yesterday. So that's another one kind of pulls in imaginary friends and reconnecting with what lit us up when we were kids. And sometimes it was that connection to our imaginary friend. So if you haven't seen that one, I highly suggest it. I saw it when it came out back in May, and it reminded me of one of my favorites when I was a kid, Drop Dead Fred. So if you are, are an 80s baby or 90s baby, and that was one of your movies when you were a kid, maybe go rewatch that a little bit and just see how reconnecting with those parts of ourselves kind of keeps us in that vibration. That's really what I want everyone to get out of this astro weather check. So feedback is always appreciated and welcome. If this helped you and inspired you to do that this week, especially under the full moon energy tomorrow, just let me know. Let me know what movie you watched or something else you rediscovered about yourself, or by getting back into that energy and allowing yourself to just play a little bit and just dream a little bit more and imagine. I think that we're very much in this energy with Saturn and Pisces, and that Saturn's influence on this full moon, just, bringing our dreams to reality has been a theme since Saturn's been in Pisces last year when it entered in March. And we're still there for a little while till next year. So we have this great opportunity, the Virgo Pisces axis where, you know, Sun in Virgo, Moon in Pisces, full moon in Pisces. It's that it's the physical and the non-physical and that dynamic between the two, and being able to create from that energy because it's the mutable signs, the adaptability, the transformation, the alchemy involved in that. So let's look at the chart and we will get into it. So like I said, every planet is involved. again. Once again, they're all at the table. So this is the actual chart for here in Atlantic City when the moon reaches fullness, 10:34 p.m. Like I said, tomorrow, Tuesday, September 17th. But I want to kind of step forward a couple hours just so you can really see the kite pattern. So I'm just going to go a little bit farther in the night here. So here's our kite right here. See this one triangle? And then we have the bigger triangle. So what this is, what a kite is trines and sextiles. So as the sun has been in Virgo since August 22nd, as it's getting farther and farther in, to the later degrees, it's been connecting with Uranus at 27 degrees of Taurus, so trine, that blue line right there, with Pluto now back again at 29 degrees of Capricorn, trine. And I talked about this in the last Astro-Weather Check, Uranus and Pluto trine. So 27 degrees of Taurus here, 29 degrees of Capricorn here, Uranus and Pluto connecting, and then down to the sun at 25 of Virgo. We'll have the sun shifting into Libra, so we'll have our equinox on Sunday morning around 8:44 a.m. here, I believe it is on the East Coast. So the sun's still kind of in this space where it's completing this trine between Uranus and Pluto. More so, with the Earth to Earth to Earth, with it being in Virgo, but it'll still kind of be there when it shifts into Libra, close enough to still complete the energetic flow. So this is the grounded energy. This is the reality-based, the practical, the physical. So Earth is all of those things, has all those qualities. So we have that energy with us with this full moon. We'll have that energy still as all week as the sun continues moving through Virgo. And then once it gets into Libra, still kind of there, even though it'll be air at that point. Libra is an air sign. So we have this harmonious flow, which is beautiful. So our identity, our consciousness, our capacity for transformation, remembering our personal power in all of this, and then our revolutionary parts of ourselves, the humanitarian parts of ourselves, the rebellious parts of ourselves, the awakening that's happening, that's been happening for a while now. So all those are connected with this full moon and after, and have been, for a while now, as the sun's been going through, getting closer and closer to these later degrees. You might want to revisit the Virgo new moon astro weather check I did back earlier. I think I released it very end of August, but it was for the Virgo new moon that we had on September 2nd. And I touched on when Pluto dipped back into Capricorn for this last time that it ever will in any of our lifetimes on September 1st, and how that, directly connected with Uranus. And we had this trine, or the trine between the two already. And then as the sun's been going through, it's been building with the sun connecting to it. So we have that. So that's the bottom part of the kite. The sun is kind of like where the string is being held, which is pretty cool, because we all have this consciousness expansion opportunity here. And that's what the sun represents, our consciousness. So the sun is the base of the kite where we hold the string, and we let it, we let it up into the air. So the other part of it is, I've already touched on this as well, these two sextiles that we have between Uranus at 27 of Taurus, Neptune at 28 degrees of Pisces, and Pluto at 29 degrees of Capricorn. So that is the top part, and that base of that triangle is completed by the sextile between Pluto and Uranus. So this part of the kite, the top part, is going to be present for a while. But the cool thing with the full moon is the moon is sort of completing so close to Neptune. The full moon will be at 26 degrees or 25 degrees. So I remember I stepped through a couple hours. So when it's full, it'll be back, let's say, look back to 10:34. 25 degrees, 40 arc minutes of Pisces, sun, 25 degrees, 40 arc minutes of Virgo, opposite, full moon. So a couple hours later, I just want, just for demonstration purposes, so you can really see this aspect. So The moon's going to be, it's said applying, so moving closer and closer to Neptune once it's full, which is pretty cool. It will, conjunct Neptune before it moves on into Aries. So the moon's heavily involved in this kite at peak fullness, which is pretty cool because we get that peak Pisces energy infused into all of it, which is why I started off this astro weather check the way that I did. I really do feel like it's so important to just have a little fun with this, you know, however, whatever is calling to you. Reading, watching movies, being with kids, reconnecting with your inner child, doing some form of artwork, something, getting out, you're frolicking on the in a field or jumping in the water or getting in a pool, like something that just fills up your cup is what I'm encouraging with this. So we have all of that, the kite. Let's go fly a kite. Go fly a kite. Rewatch Mary Poppins. Remember, I'm gonna include a link to that song in the episode notes so you can re-listen to it and just listen to the lyrics and just remember that part of the movie at the end where they're all out just having fun and all the parts of that movie where Mary Poppins helps everybody reconnect with their creativity and their imagination and their sense of wonder and their dreams and love and what's really important in life. So, okay, as usual, I have a pretty big list of things to cover with this. So, not only do we have the kite and everything I just covered, we have some squares, as you can see. The red's always kind of there, underlying in most and oftentimes. This time around, oppositions and squares are kind of also underlying undercurrents in the energy, as well as a couple other trines, which we'll talk about. So the one big thing that we have is Mars in Cancer squaring the nodes of the moon. So I've discussed this many, many times in many podcast episodes and many astro weather checks, but just a review if you're new here or if you need a little reminder. We have eclipse seasons when the sun gets close to a node. So the first eclipse season of this year was back in the spring when the sun was close to the north node, our path forward, our growth point in Aries, where the north node has been since July of last year. This time around, we're now in eclipse season again this fall, um, during the autumn equinox, as the sun is now approaching the south node in Libra, where the south node has been since July of last year. Release, shedding, letting go, flushing something out. And this has been very big overarching themes about releasing relationships, because Libra relates very much to relationships that disturb our peace, or anything in our lives that's disturbing our peace. That's been a big theme that I've noticed with the South Node in Libra. So as the sun's getting closer to a node, again, eclipse season's upon us. I discussed in the last Astro Weather Check, the lunation before is like the season opener. So the Virgo new moon back on September 2nd, eclipse season started. Now we're coming to the first eclipse, the full moon, lunar eclipse. And then we'll have a total solar on October 2nd, which I'll cover in the next Astro Weather Check. So the nodes here, 7 degrees of Aries and Libra. Mars has been in Cancer now since September 4th. And just to note, I'll also cover this in future astro weather checks. We have a Mars retrograde happening later this year, early next year, between the signs of Cancer and a little bit of Leo. So Mars is going to spend a long time in the sign of Cancer. This is not Mars's happy place. Mars is said to be exalted in the sign of Capricorn on the opposite side. So in Cancer, it's not, because it's opposite a sign where it's said to be exalted or where its energy, works really well. It's a little bit more challenging here. So reminder, and I'll cover this more when we get, closer to the retrograde. Mars in Cancer requires a little bit more. The word that's coming is kind of gentleness. because it's Mars's heat, Mars's action, Mars's drive, aggression, but instinct as well. So the fire is being put out a little bit on Mars with it being in a water sign. Cancer is survival, it's emotion, it's the maternal instinct, it's protection, it's basic needs, it's ruled by the moon. So fighting for our basic needs is kind of like a phrase to kind of translate this energy a little bit. And right now, with it squaring the nodes, whenever something is squaring the nose, it's a like a repeating lesson. So we are being called to really actively release what disturbs our peace. We are being called to very actively go forward into our who we are at our core. Our identity relates very much to Aries energy, survival. So that energy is very prevalent at the time of the full moon, but also will be for a while. Mars rules the North Node in the sign of Aries. So this is a very interesting energy, especially with the square happening at the same time as the full moon. I'm pretty sure, I'm not actually, I'll cover this later. I don't know if Mars will get back to 7 degrees of Cancer. So this might be kind of like a one and done with the square to the nodes, but it's still going to be kind of close for a while because Mars moves pretty slowly. It usually spends roughly 8 weeks in a sign, but this is going to be a very extended version of this energy because the retrograde is coming. So it shifted in on September 4th, and it's going to be there for a while. We have the added layer of the square here. So just FYI, one of the things that I've read about with Mars and Cancer and sort of helping the energy move a little bit better, or just kind of like helping it along a little bit since the fire's put out, is water sports. So things like water polo or just swimming or something that allows you to kind of release energy with the movement of the water. And I found that to be kind of cool because Mars also relates to our blood and pumping iron and that kind of thing, exercise, vitality. So if the energy feels a little bit much, if the, escape into imagination and that kind of everything that I suggested isn't working or helping, get into water, surfing, swimming, water polo, something that might help release the energy a little bit more for you. So we have that aspect there. We also have Venus and Chiron opposite each other. So another one of the red lines here. And that is really just oppositions or opportunities for balance. So this is why I stressed even more so with the square from Mars, but also Venus opposite Chiron. The healing in our relationships element is very much present with the energy of the full moon as well. So release of things no longer serving, your connection and the way you value your peace, and people pleasing and things like that that are Libra tendencies, keeping the peace or avoiding conflict at the expense of one's own inner peace is a big thing. Wounding that comes along with that with Chiron involved, but also with Chiron involved, as I always say, we have that maverick energy on our side. We have the opportunity to master this a little bit more than we usually do in our lives. So there's that as well with the energy of the full moon. It'll be exact kind of a little bit before the full moon, but that energy is still present because it's only a couple of degrees away. Venus is at 24 of Libra at the time of the full moon, and Chiron's been sitting around 22 degrees of Aries. It's actually at 2222, which is kind of cool. And so we have the synchronicity and all that kind of the whispers from the universe kind of infused into all of this anyway, with the Pisces energy plus some other cool things with the degrees that are involved. So we have that. Another opposition that we have at this time is Saturn and Mercury opposite each other. So Mercury's been past the post-retrograde shadow now since the 12th of September. It's going to be at 14 degrees at the time of the full moon, opposite Saturn at 15 degrees of Pisces. So these two opposite doesn't really last very long because Mercury moves so quickly, but the energy is there at the time of the full moon. So we have the opportunity to change our minds a little bit around all of this, to think differently about it, to have a shift in perspective, to really sit with it. I mean, Virgo is the analytical, Mercury in Virgo is exalted. So the capacity of our mind is on our side, but we have to really be honest with ourselves with the opposition to Saturn. So, how can you shift your perspective? How can you kind of sink more into the principle that your thoughts create your reality? How can you give yourself a little bit of a break mentally by, you know, taking advantage of the things that put dreams into form? So I think even though oppositions can be a little bit challenging, not as gritty as squares, but still, I feel like this coming in at this time with the full moon and everything else is a really great opportunity and a great reminder of that energy. So we have that as well. And then another square involved that is building at this time, but will kind of culminate before Venus shifts into Scorpio. I believe that is after the equinox. So probably in a week or so, Venus will move on into Scorpio and we'll have Venus square Pluto. So that's also brings up relationship themes, power dynamics in relationships in particular. So we have that energy involved as well. Excuse me. So we have that, another undercurrent, another layer, another harmonious flow. We have Venus and Jupiter trine. So harmonious flow, Venus in Libra to Jupiter in Gemini. Jupiter is the ruler technically of this full moon, traditional ruler of Pisces, but Jupiter is also squaring the full moon. So those are like two. Let's cover Jupiter kind of last and its involvement. So we have Jupiter squaring the full moon, but also trining Venus. So what that means is there's more opportunity with taking action to really balance out these energies in our lives. Jupiter squares the sun. So Jupiter squaring the full moon means simultaneously Jupiter will square the sun and the moon at the time of the full moon. The Jupiter sun square was exact on, let me get that date for you all. I believe it was last week. I don't have it here. Oh well, it happened already before the full moon. But I mean, the energy is still there. It's only within 5 degrees. So the sun squares Jupiter only twice a year. So we have that, like I said, that challenge to expand our horizons, to drop into more expansion of our consciousness around all of this. Jupiter squaring the moon brings the more subconscious layer to that energy. Jupiter ruling all of this, Jupiter ruling the full moon, Jupiter ruling the eclipse. We have that energy there, to co-create with Jupiter. It's not all just automatic, Santa Claus energy. I've found that Jupiter works in mysterious ways, and you have to be an active participant in the process with Jupiter. So we have that energy available to us, but also these two planets are, usually positive forces. So they're giving us an oomph, they're giving us a boost in our ability to do this and really hone in on what this full moon is calling each of us to do individually and collectively. With an eclipse, we have that added layer that's going to bring, things that are in the shadows to light. Truths probably will come out. Truths about things that relate to the Piscean realm, because that's where the eclipse is happening. So everything I already touched on as far as addiction, falsification of information, fantasy, escapism, all of that, disease, immunity, like all these things are kind of on the table with all the other underlying energies that are involved. So stay in the higher vibration. Let's go fly a kite. Let's go. Let's soar. Let's stay in the energy that this gives all of us to release what no longer serves us. We're always releasing with full moons, but and once we shed all of that, to take advantage of the lightness that brings that brings into our being, into our consciousness. Let's remember who we are. Let's remember we are creative beings and souls having this human earthly experience, which can be soul crushing at times. So bring back something into your awareness, into your being, an activity that makes you feel good and taps into your creativity and your heart and your inner child. That's kind of really what I really want to drive home with all of this. So the other thing is, because it's so close at the end degrees of Pisces, we also have the annual sun opposite Neptune. So I've pretty much already touched on that, which is kind of like what I wanted to close out with, because everything I've already said touches on that energy as well. Yeah. So I think that's all I wanted to cover. I think that's enough. I think that saying every planet is involved again in some way is the best metaphor. Like they're all at the round table conference room meetup yet again. I think the last time I said that the outer planets were having some kind of secret meeting, and then I read in a post by the CIA, Julia touched on the Sabian symbol for the end of Capricorn. And it is kind of all about the secret meeting of people who rule the world, having kind of like a closed door, clandestine discussion about power and stuff like that. So we have all of that happening still in the world. So how can we create our own ripples to lift that up and raise that up and vibe high? So let me cover timeanddate.com if you want to check out the eclipse, if you can see it. So timeanddate.com, you go to this sun, moon, and space menu, and then eclipses. So you click right there. And then it has all of the upcoming eclipses into next year listed here. We have the partial lunar, so you just click right there. And then it gives you a whole bunch of information. This is the best resource for this kind of stuff. Visibility paths, information. I believe it even goes into the Saros series and all of that. Look, we have a 111 right here, which is pretty cool, and a 31, which is another number that I love. So this will give you, they also do like live streams on here. So it gives you the eclipse path map. It gives you an animation. It gives you, if you scroll down, times. So the eclipse will begin here in Atlantic City at 8:41 p.m. and it'll end early in the morning on Wednesday at 12:47 a.m. So, between lunar and solar, like the times are different as far as how long the eclipse lasts, when it actually starts, when you start to see the shadow. Time and date gives you all of that for your location. So you have to remember that you put in what city you're going to be in during the time of the eclipse. So that's just this little search bar right here. Mine's already set to Atlantic City, so it comes up for me whenever I go to the website. But it's got the map, which is pretty cool. It's like I said, they have a live stream usually. Partials are, not that big a deal visually, but it's still pretty cool to see, a little piece of the moon getting covered. So timeanddate.com, best resource for everything. Let's go fly a kite. So let me pull the card for today, and I'll just do a couple of announcements, and then we will wrap up for today. So you can see why I'm sticking with this deck. So we've got our Kyle Gray Raise Your Vibration Oracle. What do we all need to know for today for this Pisces full moon partial lunar eclipse? All right. Abundance is a state of mind. This is one of the root chakra cards from this deck. You can see all the beautiful red rubies that are on the card. So our root chakra very much relates to our sense of safety and security. So we have that energy. I've already touched on that with the Mars energy and, the square to the nodes. So let's see what the book says for this card. And this very much touches on that co-creation perspective. grounding. This is the ground section of the deck. So this is actually the first card in the deck, which is pretty cool. So 32, it's like a clean slate energy. So it says for this card, what is true abundance? Don't let your wealth be determined only by your material possessions, but by your happiness, your health, the people around you, and the inspiration you hold within. You have more blessings than you have accounted for. Today, you are being encouraged not only to see them, but also to feel grateful for them. You are being guided to see your glass as half full. You are being guided to enjoy the richness of your well-being. You are being guided to let your joy be the energy that draws more reasons to feel abundant to you. Abundance is a state of mind. If you can switch your thoughts to what you have rather than what you don't have, you will become a magnet for more blessings and experience wholeness through every facet of your being. If you feel rich, your life will reflect it. The universe itself is abundant in nature. It has more than enough to go around. Experiencing blessings and riches won't deprive others of them. In fact, your experience of abundance will hold space for all those around you to level up their abundance mind too. Therefore, experiencing abundance is purposeful. Vibe of the day: I am rich in blessings, inspiration, and people I love. Thank you, Oracle. It's always such a beautiful mic drop moment when I pull at the end of the episode. It always, always, always just sums up everything and really drives home what I'm trying to say. So remember that going into this full moon, being in this week of the energies and everything underlying everything that I touched on. And then just a reminder for the abundance mindset, one that I have been in for a while now. My crowdfunding campaign is still active until my birthday on October 6th, so just a few more weeks. If these Astro-Weather checks speak to you, if they're helpful to you on your journey, if you've been with me for a while, especially if we have not yet worked together, I will include a link in the episode description. Please consider making a contribution to that. Just the act of doing the crowdfunding campaign has really unlocked this door for me in other ways. But I would still, at this time, just because I'm having a little bit of a challenge in my life at the moment, appreciate any type of financial support or donation to that, or just, book with me. Just a reminder, I offer a variety of different readings services, all the way from one question email reading to 2-session birth chart reading where we cover your chart in depth in the first one, and the second one is just transits and kind of where you're at, with cycles of life. So I have a very broad range of offerings: aromatherapy, astrological aromatherapy, astrology readings, my aromatherapy line that I created for Sea Goddess. It's all will be linked in the episode description. You can get to all of that from my page. If we've already worked together, then I do check-ins, either 60-minute or 30-minute. So it's a reduced rate once we've already had an initial reading together. I'm also in person again this week at the Sage Lady on Thursday. So the link for that's also on my page, seagoddesshealingarts.com/Ursa Alchemy. So all that is there. I am just working with people one-on-one is my favorite thing. I've mentioned that before, and I'll say it again. I just love getting into everyone's chart, like a one-on-one basis or small group settings, which I'll get to do again soon. So in person, Thursday, book ahead. The link's right there on my page. I'll be there starting at 9 o'clock on Thursday morning. Yeah. So first and third Thursdays there. I'm doing a pop-up again at Island Therapy on October 11th, and you can get to that information from our events page. I believe to book that, you have to call their office. So that information is there on our events page. And working remotely is the easiest way. that opens it up to anybody all around the world, which I've had so grateful to have been able to work with people in Australia and Canada and all over the United States. So love, love, love getting into your chart with you. I'm available with all the offerings that I have for readings. Crowdfunding campaign is there, like I said, until my birthday, and I would greatly appreciate that. Otherwise, you know where to find me. This will be available video version on Spotify and our Sea Goddess YouTube, audio on all the other podcast platforms that this gets distributed to, Apple Podcasts, and a couple of the other ones like Audible, Amazon Music, that kind of thing. But I always recommend catching the video if you can, because you can actually see the chart I'm, demonstrating, and also the card that I pull. And me. Finally at the point where I could do this on video. So that's a huge, growth point for me in and of itself. So if you've been with me for a while, thank you. If you're new here, welcome. And like I said, I encourage feedback. I love hearing from people. You can comment right on the video version on our YouTube or on Spotify as well. Now they allow commenting. So I'd love to hear from you. You can email me directly, ursaalchemy@gmail.com. You can DM me on Instagram. My account is Ursa Alchemy on there as well. And yeah, so if you've watched any movies or anything I said spoke to you and you did something, I would love to hear your feedback and how it helped through the energy. So until then, I should be back with you, but right before the Libra new moon solar eclipse that we have incoming on the 2nd of October. And until that time, I will see you on the socials and on our, hopefully in person or online for a reading. And remember, we have our Tuesday lives with Sea Goddess. So every Tuesday, 11:30 a.m. on our Facebook page. We stream live for about an hour and just do readings and discussion and announcements. So I'll be there, and we'll be live again tomorrow morning at 11:30 on the day of the full moon. So remember to be a maverick. Bye.